Item 4, Seanad Bill 2020, second stage. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. I call on Senator Michael McDougall. You have 12 minutes.
I move that the Seanad Bill 2020 be read a second time. It's important perhaps to note that on the 1st of February 2018, the then Taoiseach, the now Taoiseach Minister Varadkar, came to this House and endorsed the principle of the Manning report, announced his intention to establish an implementation group, an all-party implementation group, and spoke strongly in favour of the principle of amending the way Seanad Éireann was elected. And he indicated that he was going to establish a group which would, over an 8-month period, come forward with proposals on how exactly the proposals of the Manning report would be implemented. Subsequent to that, between February and June of that year, the group was established. Its terms of reference were set out by a government decision. The group met and I was elected its chairman. And as a result of all of that, the group met over a period from June of 2018 to December of 2018, when it completed its work and presented its work to the Taoiseach. The group had the advantage that the department of the Taoiseach paid for the retention of a skilled parliamentary draftsman to devise a bill which would be appended to the report. And the group itself met on many occasions, deliberated on precisely how they intended to craft a report, and received evidence about the practicality of various ways of implementing the Manning report. As a result of all of that, the report was sent by me as chairperson to the Taoiseach in December 2018, and in early 2019 I noted that the Taoiseach had made somewhat dismissive remarks about the report in Dáil Éireann in this chamber, and I asked to see him in relation to it. And he told me, much to my surprise and disappointment, that he himself was an abolitionist during the referendum, and that he had no particular interest in progressing the matter any further. This, of course, contrasted hugely with the impression he had given the Seanad the previous February. Over 12 months, the situation had changed dramatically, and we were then running into a general election, and suddenly all interest in the bill suddenly disappeared. And I was told that the government had no intention of introducing the bill in Dáil Éireann, as I had recommended in my covering letter, and I was told, in addition to that, that it could be, of course, introduced by any private member, but the government in those circumstances would allow a free vote, and it was highly unlikely to go anywhere. Now, that set of circumstances smacks to me of utter cynicism. The Manning report was put in place following the rejection by the people of a proposal to abolish this House. The Manning report was published. It became part of the programme of government for the 2016-2020 administration to implement the Manning report, and yet by early 2019 that commitment was completely thrown aside, and all interest in implementing the Manning report seemed to have evaporated in a miraculous way. I have to express my own view that that was breathtaking political cynicism, because many members participated in the Manning report implementation group, members who are here in this House and others, in good faith believing that they were finally taking the steps without constitutional change to give the people of Ireland a very substantial say in who sat in this chamber. That's what was proposed, and that's what the government had committed itself to doing, and that's what was immediately taken off the agenda and effectively thrown into the political wastepaper basket. Now, all I will say is, in relation to that, we now come to the point where the question of Seanad reform simply will not go away. And I know I want to welcome the Minister with responsibility for electoral reform here, and I've spoken to him and to Minister O'Brien about this matter. And I fully empathise with the position of the Minister of State, who has indicated that his party wanted to have Seanad reform part of the programme for government, but that the other two parties showed very little interest in having it there. And in fairness to them, that's the situation, that's the truth of it. And Minister O'Brien, as I understand it, hopes to have somebody on the government benches move an amendment to the motion for a second reading of this bill today to postpone the second reading to the 31st of December 2021 in order that further consideration can be given by the Minister of State's department and the section over which he has responsibility to the implementation of the bill. The effect of that amendment, if it were carried, would be to put into the record of this House that the bill would be deemed to be passed on the 31st of December 2021, and then it would fall, of course, to be considered whether it or other legislative proposals which the department had come up with in the meantime would be progressed thereafter to committee stage, etc. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Senator Malcolm Byrne introduced legislation recently designed to implement the result of the referendum to spread the university seats more equitably across institutions of higher education. But the result of that bill, if it was adopted in isolation, would be that maybe 800,000, maybe with the passage of time 1 million or more, people would elect 10% of the members of this House, provided that those people were graduates of higher education, and that the remainder of the electorate, which by that stage would probably be 2 or 3 million other people, though a declining fraction as higher education is more generally available, would have no direct say, and that 1,200 people being representatives in local government and the Oireachtas would elect or select the remaining 90% of this House. The case for reform is overwhelming. I do remind the House that the former Taoiseach Enda Kenny, in order to try and induce the people to accept the referendum for the abolition of this House, informed the people that if his proposal to abolish this House was rejected, he told them prior to the referendum vote that he would not reform this House. Now that was a very cynical move as well, because he was saying, I will leave it as undemocratic as it is, so don't think you're going to get a better Senate. But he changed his mind when he got what he described as a wallop at the hands of the electorate in his attempts to wreck this House and wreck the Constitution with it. I won't talk about recent controversies, but one of the functions of this House is to ensure that certain powers in respect of the judiciary are not abused by a majority in Dáil Éireann, and we have our own separate function in relation to that. But we have all other functions. This House has a veto on any plan to implement any measure at European level to deploy the passerelle clause, in other words, to give up unanimity requirements. This House, under the Constitution, has very significant functions apart from its legislative scrutiny function as well. Now, I want to say that in the short time that the standing orders of this House, in the form that they still are, by the way, I'd have had to sit down about 3 minutes ago if a certain thing had happened this morning. But in the short time that's available to me, this bill was crafted in good faith by a collective effort of members of Dáil Éireann and Seanad Éireann. It was modular in form. It acknowledges that change will not happen in a big bang. It was gradual in form in that it provided for a phased introduction of these reforms. It was a genuine bona fide effort to finally give this House a broader base in terms of the people who select who are here. It was also designed, as the Manning report attempted to do, to retain a function for representatives in local government to have an input into the composition of Seanad Éireann and thereby the Oireachtas. It is a fair bill, it is expertly drafted, it is capable of being implemented. It may cost money, but it is worthwhile doing. And I want, if I may, just at the very end to say, now is not the time for cynicism or further delay. The Minister of State has told me privately, and he said I was at liberty to say this, that he wants to get ahead with these reforms. This is the occasion on which to do it. I wish that we would make faster progress than the amendment that's likely to be put down by the government to the motion for the second reading indicates. But I am taking him at his word that he is genuine and bona fide committed to implementing the reform of the Seanad in the way that he has indicated in private to me, and I thank him for those assurances.
Thank you, Senator.